In today's lesson, we will go through the reminders, the halachic reminders that are relevant to this coming Shabbos as well as Motzei Shabbos, which is Shabbos Selichos. So this coming Shabbos, which is Shabbos Mevorchim Tishrei, we are not accustomed to recite the customary blessing of Mevorchim HaChodesh on Shabbos before Musaf. The reason for this is mentioned in the Magen Avram, chapter 4:17, is because the pasuk in Tehillim states, "Bekesel yem chagenu," with regards to Rosh Hashanah. This means bekesel, with concealment for the day of our holiday, which means to say that the day of our holiday, Rosh Hashanah, is meant to be concealed, meaning we don't publicize it. The reason for why the pasuk says not to publicize it, explained in the Levush, is in order to confuse the Satan and prevent him from prosecuting against us on that day. So the Satan would not be aware of what day is Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe explains in Likutei Sichos, Chelik Chav Daled, that this doesn't mean literally that if we don't proclaim the month, the Satan will not know when is Rosh Hashanah, but rather that since he sees we are not fulfilling this mitzvah of Mevorchim HaChodesh, his prosecution will be weakened, as he will feel that there's really no need to prosecute against the Jews not fulfilling the mitzvah. And that's how we come at advantages out of not saying Mevorchim HaChodesh. In Pnimis HaTorah, there's a famous Torah, the Baal Shem Tov printed in Ayin Yain, that says that in truth the reason why we do not say the blessing of the month on this Shabbos is because on this Shabbos it is Hashem himself who blesses this month with the blessing of Atin Atzav Mayim Kulchem. And it is with this blessing that we have the ability and power to bless all the other months for the rest of the year. Although we do not say this blessing, we do recite the entire book of Tehillim before Shachris, just like on any other Shabbos Mevorchim. We likewise do recite the saying of Avar Rachamim, which comes before Ashrei of Musaf, even though we normally omit it on a Shabbos Mevorchim. And the reason is because this Shabbos, since we don't verbally bless the month, it is not a time of joy, and therefore it is to be recited. So is recorded in the Mati Ephraim, the Shari Ephraim, and in Teres Menachem, in Tav Shinun, and other Sichos of the Rebbe. And so is the Chabad custom, and we recite Avar Rachamim this Shabbos. On Motzei Shabbos by Ma'ariv we omit Vayehi Noyam, as is customarily omitted whenever a holiday falls within the week. The reason why it's omitted is because the verse of Vayehi Noyam discusses the work of our hands, and thus we only say it in a week that we will be working every day. But whenever a holiday falls in the middle of the week, since we won't be working every day, therefore Vayehi Noyam and the paragraph of Ata Kodesh is completely omitted. We will now go through a short outline and checklist of Selichos, which will be begun starting this Motzei Shabbos. So the first night of Selichos, as we know, is Motzei Shabbos, as we discussed in yesterday's shir. The minhag is to begin Selichos immediately after midnight. So was written in Sefer HaMinhagim, page 114, and it is as well the custom of majority of Ashkenazi Jewry as brought in Piskei Teshuvos. The Bris Moshe states that this is a very, very old custom from earlier generations, and this was practiced by tzaddikim based on the Zohar. One of the reasons mentioned is because in the Selichos of Motzei Shabbos we say b'Motzei Menucha, the day after Shabbos, and it wouldn't be fit to say it if it was already Sunday. Other Sfarim bring down the Leket HaYesher, which was a student of the Trumas Hadeshin, that the reason why we say it is in order to recite Selichos with joy and with happiness. It is also explained in Sfarim in length the greatness of the time of midnight and its importance. We likewise say Selichos while still wearing our Shabbos clothing, and this is once again also to emphasize the idea of that Selichos is supposed to be said in the beginning with a happy tune and a happy mode. To note, however, that the Rebbe Rashab would switch his Shabbos clothes for Selichos, as was always his custom to switch them immediately after Havdalah. It is customary to hold a Chassidic gathering on Motzei Shabbos in the hours prior to Selichos as a preparation for Selichos. In directives of the Rebbe, one is to learn Torah prior to saying Selichos. The Rebbe said that the content to be learned is matters which pertain to practical halacha, and this applies to each day of Selichos. Likewise, one should study a portion of the Maimer of the Chavayat Tzaka, which is printed in the beginning of Selichos, or as the Rebbe said, if you don't have time to learn the whole Maimer, at the very least, learn its beginning and its end. On the first night of Selichos, this is to be learned prior to midnight. Another directive of the Rebbe is to give tzedakah before Selichos, and on the first night of Selichos, since we don't give tzedakah at night, therefore one should wait to give the tzedakah until after Chatzos, until after midnight. Regarding standing during Selichos, so the widespread custom is to stand, as brought down in the Mateh Ephraim, the Kitur Shlah, and this especially applies when the Aron is open, and during the 13 attributes of mercy, the reciting of the Shamdu, as well as by Shema Keleinu. Nevertheless, if it's difficult for one to stand, then he may remain seated, with exception to when the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim are recited, in which he is to stand. The Chazan of Selichos always recites Selichos wearing a talis, and therefore, if he's reciting Selichos before the allowable time to say a bracha over talis, as is the case on the first night on Motzei Shabbos, therefore he should borrow a talis from another person in order to avoid any shaila of a blessing. It does not help in this regard to take the shul's talis. The shul's talis is considered as if it is acquired by each person in the congregation. Selichos must be recited slowly and with concentration, and as is brought down in Achronim, it is better to recite a lesser amount of Selichos, but with proper concentration, than a larger amount without concentration. This especially applies to the 13 attributes of mercy, in that they must be recited with concentration. While reciting 13 attributes of mercy, one is to bend his back slightly, to arch it forwards. As well as discussed in previous shiurim, one may not recite the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim if he's without a minyan, and our custom is not to recite it even in the tune of the Torah reading.